Hong Kong is rolling out a new cybersecurity law in 2026, targeting critical sectors and mandating upgrades, risk checks, and 2-hour breach reporting. With penalties reaching up to 5 million Hong Kong dollars, businesses are under pressure to comply. To expound more on this, we have Padraig Walsh from Tanner the Witt. So, Padraig, how will this new law impact businesses in critical sectors?
Well, I think the first thing really to pay attention to is that the ordinance itself is directed towards larger businesses. So it's really directed towards businesses in certain critical sectors or large venues that may have be running events or engagements that are important to the economy as a whole. So you see this even in the designation of the particular industry sectors that have been identified in the ordinance. That they are what you would expect: energy, healthcare, transport, three versions of transport: maritime, air, and land, information technology, banking, financial institutions, telecommunications, and other forms of communication, all things that are necessary for society to run. And within each of those sectors, there will be a designation of particular computer systems. So to give an example, if you look at information technology, IT, that's a very, very broad sector potentially. But what will happen in the designation is that it will be looking to designate things that are important or critical to the operation of society and business and all the things that makes an economy function and run. So in that sense, particularly for, let's say, small and medium-sized businesses, this ordinance isn't necessarily directed towards them, but for larger businesses, it's something that they need to pay attention to and be prepared for.
And in order to prepare for this, can you name the biggest compliance challenges that companies may face?
What you'll find is that in a number of these sectors, businesses are already compliant for a variety of reasons, including the regulation that they already need to fulfill. So if you look at, for instance, banks, there's a whole stream of regulation with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority that revolves around critical infrastructure security and cybersecurity in all its guises. And likewise in the communication sector. In fact, the HKMA and the Communications Authority have been designated as, under the ordinance as being kind of co-partners with the Security Bureau and the new commissioner in respect of critical infrastructure protection. So for some businesses, they may not need to do too much, but they do need to be aware of new reporting obligations, particularly around incident reporting. And they need to be aware that they are benchmarking themselves to the right standards that are required under the ordinance. But for other areas, there will be new people who are coming under the umbrella of a formal cybersecurity type of reporting and obligation with a regulator for the first time. And for those businesses, they will need to prepare significantly more. They will need to look at what their current organizational structure is, what their current processes and procedures are, as well as their incident response management and planning and capabilities. So you'll see that there will be a lot of activity in the course of the next 6 to 9 months as businesses prepare themselves for the new ordinance being live, with the new regulator and commissioner being set up, and the new guidelines that they will publish and engage with industry on.
So that's in line with the challenges. How about in terms of preparation for the law's 2026 implementation? Are there specific steps that companies should take?
Well, maybe just to update in respect of the current position. The current position is that the ordinance has been gazetted. That means it's published in its final form. What will happen now is that the commissioner will start, it's formally got the authority to be able to establish itself and to start preparing guidelines and recruiting people in order to be able to resource itself to fulfill its functions. This is a nice opportunity, particularly for industry leaders, to be able to work and collaborate with the new commissioner in terms of shaping what those guidelines will look like. Ultimately, the obligations and the ordinance are going to fall into three categories. There are organizational obligations about how you set yourself up in terms of your organizational structure to make sure that you have a dedicated, for instance, a dedicated computer information security team, InfoSec team that's dedicated towards protection of critical infrastructure and computer systems. There are preventative measures that you will need to pay attention to, things like having proper testing, auditing, and inspections and trial runs in respect of your computer systems. And there's also an incident response plan that you will need to prepare, activate when needed, and reporting obligations if security incidents happen that you will need to make to the Security Bureau or the commissioner set up under the Security Bureau. So in all of these areas, what you'll find is that industries and those who are covered by the legislation will need to make sure that they're equipped to fulfill the actual statutory obligations that are going to be placed upon them, as that will be enhanced or elaborated in guidelines published by the commissioner, and then to set up a system and process to make sure that they have ongoing institutional compliance going forward. So that's, I guess, what businesses really need to focus on now, is seeing where they presently are in respect of that journey, benchmarking and trying to help the commissioner in respect of guidelines that might be published so that they have the ability to have input into the standards that they will be fulfilling themselves. And then benchmarking against their current practices, against those published guidelines, and establishing a system of ongoing compliance review and implementation so that they're on the right side of those obligations going forward.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Padraig.
Thank you, Sez. Have a good day.
Once again, that was Padraig Walsh, partner at Tanner DeWitt, Hong Kong. For more news, visit hongkongbusiness.hk.